The Framework and Pillars Planner for coaches and practitioners ready to turn their expertise into a signature system that builds trust and authority. Introduction: why structure builds authority. You've clarified who you help and what transformation you create. Now it's time to show how you do it. Your framework is what turns scattered ideas into a signature method. It's the structure behind your success, the reason people trust you, remember you, and refer to you. This step is about defining 3 to 5 signature pillars, the core topics or phases that guide your clients from confusion to clarity. These pillars will become the foundation for your content, your offers, and the way you confidently describe your process. When you know your pillars, your entire business becomes easier to explain and easier to grow. Before we dive in, let me give you an example. So my perimenopause niche that I started about 60 days ago. My program was built around a few pillars. The first was blood sugar balance, so lots of diet and using a CGM. The second pillar was stress reduction and using a Garmin VivoSmart watch and nervous system work. The next step was hormones, that is thyroid and sex hormones. And so we worked on all of that and balancing all of it. I used for the thyroid and the sex hormones, I used blood work and the Dutch test. And that was my program. Now, someone could upgrade to the full transformation from the perimenopause reset, and we could do a GI map, we could do an organic acids, whatever the labs were that I wanted to have in that program. But that was my core program. It was everything that I felt like that person needed to get to their goal in that program, in that container. So that kind of gives you an idea of where we're going with this. So part 1, what do you stand for? Start by grounding your framework in your philosophy. What do you believe about healing, health, or transformation that guides everything you do? Is it that diet and lifestyle is the foundation? Is it that you must balance minerals to do anything because minerals are such a foundational part? Is it that you use functional lab assessments to uncover the root cause? So what do you believe about healing, health, or transformation? What core principles do you teach over and over again to every client? And if you've never had a client before, just think about the things that they would need to know to be successful. For example, my perimenopause group needs to know about blood sugar. They need to know what to do with the CGM when they have highs and lows and what type of action to take and how to correct that. They need to know what to do when their Garmin VivoSmart shows that they have high stress or that they're not sleeping well. So what do you teach over and over again, or what do you think you're going to teach over and over again? I understand if you're new, you may not fully know this, and you could always use AI here a little bit and say, what exactly would somebody with this problem need to know? Or what would I teach over and over? Now, I don't want you to copy and paste. I want you to type it out and think through, because ultimately you're going to use a lot of this to shape your business, your future, your social media, your marketing, everything. And so you don't want AI deciding that for you. You want to decide that for you so that it is fully aligned with you and who you are and your beliefs and everything to do with you. If your process was a roadmap, what milestones would clients reach along the way? So for example, my perimenopause reset, they might notice calmer energy, sleeping better, their blood sugar balancing. They're not getting dips in the middle of the night anymore. They notice that their scores are going up in their Garmin. They notice their body batteries going up, their sleep scores going up. Maybe their step count is increasing. So what type of milestones? If you can give people small milestones in weekly or bi-weekly formats of what they can expect to achieve in the program, it helps them feel like they're making progress to the bigger goal. Because sometimes a goal is so big, like the IBS example I gave, Sometimes that goal is so big for them to be able to eat whatever they want without rushing to the bathroom. Sometimes that goal is so big that it takes a long time to get there. It could take 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 6 months, a year, depending on the person, exactly what's going on and the cause of it. And so what tiny milestones can they expect along the way? And it doesn't even have to be in weekly or bi-weekly format, but it could be, first, you're going to notice this. Then you're going to notice this. And again, if you're not sure, you can always ask AI, for the average person, what would be milestones on their way to doing XYZ? This is my program. This is how it's laid out. This is who I help. Give all the information that it's going to need. And then it can help you with those milestones. But again, I want you to type it yourself. Don't copy paste. Because I want you to choose the milestones that you want to give to people. I don't want you to just give an arbitrary list. All right, part 2, we're going to define your signature pillars. Now, organize your process into 3 to 5 clear steps, themes, or focus areas. So for example, maybe gut, hormones, and nervous system, nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, assess, reset, rebuild, sustain. So what are your 3 to 5 steps or pillars? So I'll give you an example in my perimenopause reset. So my pillar 1 was balance blood sugar. What does this pillar represent or teach? Women in perimenopause often struggle with blood sugar imbalance. Blood sugar must be balanced in order to balance hormones. Why is it important for the transformation? They cannot balance their hormones without balancing blood sugar. What tools, resources, or practices support it? The CGM and the Vivo smartwatch, because stress spikes blood sugar as well. Handouts and guides for dietary intervention. And then stress reduction activities. And then any additional notes I want to put there. My second pillar was nervous system and stress. What does this pillar represent or teach? Stress, high cortisol, spikes blood sugar. And in order for them to be able to, say, lose weight, or in order for them to be able to balance their hormones, they must balance their stress response. Why is it important for the transformation? They're not going to be able to balance their hormones unless their stress is balanced. What tools, resources, or practices support it? The Garmin Vivo Smart. So I might put the CGM in number 1 and then the Garmin Vivo Smart in number 2. The Garmin Vivo Smart, we could also say a Dutch test to look at cortisol to see how that looks. And then my 12-week nervous system program, as well as just a handy guide of some different stress reduction techniques that they can use throughout the day for different situations, like taking a few deep breaths before meals, or if they're starting to feel stressed, rubbing their fingertips together and feeling the ridges on their fingers just to divert their focus from the stress to something different. The next pillar is thyroid. What does this pillar represent or teach? A slowed metabolism. Why is it important for transformation? Because if the thyroid's not supported, they might not be eating enough calories. They might not be getting enough carbs and fat. What tools, resources, or practices support it? Eating enough, selenium, zinc, iodine, in a healthy amount, making sure that they're just meeting the daily goals that for the average person, or if their labs say that they need something specific, making sure that we're getting in what they need. And then also we'll say blood work here. And then number 4 would be sex hormones. So what does this pillar represent or teach? It teaches about how to effectively manage hormones in perimenopause. Why is it important for the transformation? Because that's the ultimate goal generally. What tools, resources, or practices support it? I would say the Dutch test, and then I could list out some extra things here. I could list out specific dietary interventions to help with estrogen dominance, low progesterone, and then I could list out any additional notes. And I could talk about under the additional notes how the steps build on each other, but also how they can all be done collectively at the same time. And so that kind of gives you an idea What I could also put here as a fifth pillar is I could talk about gut health, and I could talk about beta glucuronidase on the GI map and how that can cause some estrogen recycling, which could lead to the estrogen dominance or amplify it or make it even worse for these women that are in perimenopause. Now, name your framework. This is optional in this stage. You don't have to do it yet, but maybe you could give it a temporary name just to start thinking about it. Giving your method a name helps it feel tangible and professional. Try combining the theme of your work with the name initials or a descriptive word. So the 9R gut healing method, the Calm framework, and the Nourish and Reset system. I like to go with if you do not have one and it's a very broad program that works on everything, I like to go with the Total Transformation Program. That was the name of my program until 60 days ago. It sold well. People love it. Most people do want a total transformation, and so it works fantastically. So if you don't have one, go with the Total Transformation for now. Now, when you're done, I want you to share your 3 to 5 pillars, just the pillars themselves. You do not have to go into the bullets, such as what does this pillar represent, just the pillars. So maybe I would share blood sugar, adrenals and stress, thyroid, sex hormones, and then gut health, specifically beta glucuronidase and bacterial overgrowth. So I could share that. And then share your program name. Even if it's not official, just share the program name that goes with it in the day 3 community post. Now, remember that simplicity builds credibility. The more complex it is, the harder it's going to be to sell. Now, part 4, why all this matters. Your framework does more than organize your ideas. It establishes trust. It helps clients see your process clearly. It gives your program structure and repeatability. It anchors your content so you always know what to talk about. This is where your authority begins, not from trying to sound like everyone else, but from confidently owning your own process. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. All that matters is what you want to do. Now, by the end of today, you will have your 3 to 5 signature pillars defined and explained. Understand how your framework creates transformation, and be able to communicate your method clearly in content and offers. Now, what's next? Day 4 is the offer blueprint. Tomorrow, you'll bring your framework to life by turning it into your signature offer, the tangible container where transformation happens. You'll outline the details, the structure, and experience that makes your program irresistible and easy to sell. Authority meets alignment tomorrow. Now, for an optional reflection, day 3, framework and pillars planner. Which pillar of your framework feels the most powerful? And which one surprised you as you thought through it and you were thinking through the step by step and what people needed? Now, I do want to point out one more thing that's important here. When it talks about resources here, I just want you to think about what handouts the person might need, because I want you to start thinking about what you might need to make. And you don't have to make that today, and you don't have to make them all today. Maybe just the very first thing that they might need. You might want to start thinking about making that in the near future. And you don't want to go overboard. But what do they truly need to be successful in your program?